जाओ। Okay.
कहीं स्टार्ट नहीं हो रहा।
उन दोनों ने ये फैसला कर लिया था कि चाहे कुछ भी हो जाए तो दोनों एक दूसरे से अलग नहीं होंगे।
आवाज आ रही है आपको?
Hello.
हाँ भाई ठीक है।
Am I audible?
वीडियो ऑफ है ना मेरी? हाँ। ऐसे करना एक बार चीज देखनी है फास्ट फास्ट करना। तुम्हारे पति योगेश और तुम्हारे पति देवांग पटेल ने दोनों को कैसे मारा?
आपको मुझे हेलो शशांक जी
या ओके
नहीं आपको शशांक जी अब मैंने अनम्यूट किया बट आपके आसपास की सारी आवाजें आ रही हैं।
वो नहीं देखना हमको इस वो भी वो करना।
हेलो हेलो हाँ
हेलो
शशांक जी हाँ
am I
आपके यहाँ
audible?
की सारी yes you are but others are unmuted yes
Okay.
you can begin now.
Let's begin. Okay, good afternoon.
Yeah.
I welcome you all on behalf of CRA, CR and PD. CRA, CR and PD stands for Center for Research and Advocacy for Child Rights and Persons with Disability. I welcome the panelists of this session, especially Pratima Sharma and Ratna Saxena, Pratima Sharma, and Mrs. Vinita Bhargav, with Sweta Verma, and finally Miss Nicole. Miss Nicole, thank you, and so happy to see you all on this panel.
Thank you.
Over this discussion to Ratna to further continue with it.
Thank you, Shashank ji.
Yeah.
I welcome once again each one of you. And just to begin with, as Shashank ji said, we are organizing this from CRA, CR and PD, which is Center for Research and Advocacy for Child Rights and Persons with Disability. And for us, the objective to start this trust was to reach the invisible child. For us at CRA, CR and PD, the invisible child is the last child that is visible and the child beyond that visibly last child. So we want to reach that invisible child, and we also aim to strengthen the PRIs. PRIs for dealing effectively with the child protection system. So today at this webinar, we are focusing on parenting and what are the challenges of parenting. So I would like to introduce each of my panelists. Dr. Vinita Bhargav. She is an associate professor with the Department of Human Development and Childhood Studies at the Lady Irwin College, DU. Prior to joining the college, she worked in the area of early childhood care and care and education with the Social Work and Research Center at Tilonia, Rajasthan. And she is now a founder member of CARA. She is at the NOC committee and at the training program review and design, team management, service delivery, advocacy, and research. She has worked in the area of mental health, disability rights, psychosocial support in disaster response, gender issues, and in urban poverty areas of Delhi, and continues to work as a mental health professional, as a social worker volunteer with Sarthak, which is an NGO. Welcome, ma'am. Next, I welcome Nicole. Hi, Nicole. We have a very long association, and I've seen her work in the field of child protection when she was leading the Childline India Foundation. And she is a development professional with over 14 years of experience. And she is very passionate about her work in the child protection sector, a very known figure. And she was instrumental in developing the emergency outreach service, which under the ministry's ICPS is a child protection service for children in emergency. Welcome, Nicole. And besides this, she has twins, and she is known to be a best parent in our circle. So welcome, Nicole. And Pratima, ma'am, can I see you for once? Hi. Welcome, ma'am. You're an educationist and wide experience of teaching in various management colleges across Delhi, NCR, and Uttarakhand. Being into higher education sector for 17 years, you have decided to now enter into preschool sector from 2012. You have started your own preschool, which is called Iksana. It's a very caring preschool and daycare under the agencies of FACE Foundation, which is Elevating Children Education and Welfare Charitable Trust. So this startup has helped you to understand the parenting and wherever you have been. So welcome, ma'am. And for Shashankji, he's being an advocate in the Supreme Court. He has been a former member for Delhi Commission of Protection of Child Rights. And he is a well-known person in the field of child sexual abuse. He has been dealing with various issues relating to children. And he is also, along with me, the co-founder of CRA, CRN, PD. But today he is also going to be speaking about his experiences as a parent, not as an advocate. So Shashankji, we need you as a parent. And of course, I'm there in the field of child protection, and I'm also a parent, but not as good as Nicole and others are. I have my own story to tell. So we welcome all, and we begin today's webinar by inviting Vanita ma'am, because she is a parent, of course, and a good one. I've met her daughter, and she has been dealing with so many parents who have adopted so much many number of children, and she had both experiences, her own as well as of those who have been an adoptive parent. So for us, ma'am, we would like to invite you, because parenting, we understand, is a process of raising children and providing them with care and protection, so that we ensure that they are also developing in a healthy environment. Their own development is going to be productive when they are in adulthood. So ma'am, we'll invite you, and please share your thoughts with us. And I think the time slot says each one we have 10 minutes each, and then we can interact within ourselves as well as with the other participants. So ma'am, we welcome you. Shashankji, unmute ma'am.
Namaste.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you very much for inviting me. I never refuse an opportunity to talk on parenting. I think it's one of my most favorite areas, and especially since I've been working in this area of adoption, where the whole role of a parent is such an important thing in bringing out the best in the child who's seen so much difficult trauma. So today I'll just give with Bankar and Aruna Roy in Tilonia, and all of you are familiar with the work they do. And I think that those 3 years in Tilonia really left a mark on me, because I'd never lived in a village at any point, and very, very urban, brought up in a totally different kind of environment. So very soon I realized that, you know, I would want to continue this work irrespective of whatever. So when we decided to adopt, we had a biological child who was 4 years of age. And so people were very, at that time, because now she's 30, so at that time people were very, you know, oh, why do you want to adopt, and what is the reason? Do you have secondary infertility? Will you ever be able to love somebody else's child? So parenting is about your blood, parenting is about your background, parenting is about your culture. So a lot of this was part of how I began this journey. But very soon, you know, when I got into this area, I also decided to do a PhD. And during that process, I became the founder member of CARA, and through that got engaged very closely with policy. So during that period, when I was going from agency to actually look at what are the processes, what are the procedures, I realized that there were a lot of problems and a lot of difficulties. Following up families became easier because I was a founder member of CARA, and I realized that parents are very alone in the task of parenting an adopted child. As you know, even today, it may seem that, you know, people are open and people are accepting, but it's very sad to say that really it's very superficial. At many levels, not much has changed. And to just start with example of what has happened in the last few years, when data was collected from 2017 to 19, we realized that 275 children who had been given an adoption were returned back because there were disruptions, because there were difficulties in children adjusting, and so on and so forth. So a very, very important task is to understand that, of course, adoptive parenting is no different from biological parenting, but it's also important to realize that there are stark differences, and we have to accept those differences, and we have to bring in very, very strongly what is called pre-adoptive counseling, because the child carries baggage of lots of difficulties, trauma, having seen so many things, attachment disorders, because there are multiple caregivers that are looking after the child. The parents come with their own difficulty. Sometimes parents have been through cycles of IVF. They've seen every pandit who could be seen. They've tried every medicine. They've tried every religious thing that will bring them a child. And with this baggage, they go forward to adopt a child. So both the person who's taking the child and the person who comes in has difficulties. So pre-adoptive counseling is extremely important. And at this point, I'll just raise 3 things. It's very important to connect with the child. Number 2, realize that the child may come with severe learning difficulties and how to deal with those learning difficulties. And third is that the child will come with their own individual personality and cannot be seen as an extension of the parent. And all these 3 become very important in the task of parenting. I know that, you know, I will have lots to say, but I think I'll just stop with this and we can take on questions, because I think the time is really short. But I do believe that adoptive parenting needs very, very specialized input to create that connect between the parent
Thank you,
and the
ma'am.
child.
But I think we
Thank
should
you.
all say whatever we plan to say today to share among ourselves. Then we'll take the questions at a later stage, because there are participants who will be raising some more questions.
But I thought the bell went, so I thought, we were going to, it's going to be over.
No. So with this, you have raised a lot of questions yourself now, like the pre-adoptive counseling and the learning difficulties they come. So we have one of the speakers who is working on with the disability sector, Shweta ma'am. So ma'am, normally parenting is that we teach our children to socialize so that they'll learn to adjust in the society. They become better individuals. They can cope up with the pressures of the society. So with your background, what is this social, scripts that we give to our children, and especially children who are with learning disabilities or other
Yeah.
special needs.
So
So,
let me tell you that over time, what has happened is very few babies are available for adoption. So children are much older when they come in, and parents have a lot of expectations, and the expectations are drawn from the larger society. If I go back theoretically, if you've heard of the ecological model, it'll be very clear to you that the larger context, or the macro context in which our parents are located, is full of pressures of succeeding in academics. That becomes such a severe thing that sometimes when parents come to me and I say, don't worry about school, just connect with the child, and in the sense of connect with playing with the child, being happy with the child, spending time which is really not to do with making them study or disciplining them in a very severe way. It's very hard, because the first thing they want to do is कौन से स्कूल में इसको डालें जो बेस्ट स्कूल है, और इसको तो all the aspirations of becoming a doctor or an engineer or all these start surfacing very soon. And what really happens is, at that point, the child who is really actually striving to connect with the parent actually just is trying to fulfill the expectations. And this really, and more so during this COVID period, I have found so much stress among parents, because they're constantly ringing up and saying, the whole day the child is with me, and today just see the child has slapped me, or the child has done this or that. And so I asked them, what have you been doing the whole day? What games have you played? Have you sung some songs? What are his favorite things? Have you done some art? Have you gone for a jog together, maybe on the roof or any other place? There's very little they can share. What is happening is instruction. पढ़ने बैठो, स्कूल का काम खत्म करो, क्या तुमने वो चैप्टर पढ़ लिया है? So the engagement with the child at the level of something more than succeeding in school seems to be a very problematic thing. And this has resulted in this long period where the parent and the child is together. There is 24/7 pressure on the child to actually succeed in terms of how many hours have you studied? What have you done? Have you finished your homework? Oh, the tuition teacher is not here. So what do we do? Also, the fact that, there's always the doubt about the background. So parents will ring up and ask, my child is in a habit of picking up things. Do you think वो किसी चोर का बच्चा है? क्या उसका background ऐसा है कि उसमें खून में ही चोरी है? So, it's very hard to explain at that time that every child goes through this experience, and every child will do some things which will make him realize that how far his boundaries can go. So the early period becomes like the honeymoon period, but as the child discovers more about themselves कि मेरा background क्या है, मैं आपके पेट में से नहीं आया तो किसके पेट में आया, then who are you to give me all these instructions to do these things? You're not even my mother. I think what comes as a really huge challenge is the fact that by the time the child reaches about 8 or 9, the child starts questioning the fact that he's adopted and he's not born of them. And at that time, there is the pressure of discipline, and this new reality that the child has faced really come together, and there is a total rebellion against the parent. And many a parent is unable to deal with this aspect of it, that why is it we're giving 100% to this child, but he's just not listening to us, or he's saying, I'm not going to listen because you're not my parents at all, why should I do it? So very often I do have to tell them that this too will pass. This is also making sense of a reality that most children are not really, they don't experience. So you just have to wait, you just have to hold him, you just have to hug him, you have to say, I understand, and this will pass. So again, as we know, children become adolescents, there are even bigger issues that they face. Sometimes there is a search for their roots. They want to find out who their parents are. This is something, again, in the Indian context, is seen as a failure of the parent. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. Most children do want to know their background. It's just an inquisitiveness about themselves. So I think this parenting of a child who is adopted needs a lot of hand holding. And that is why we began this organization called Apna, Alternative Parenting Network Association, because we realized that all of us can come together to help each other go through this process.
Ma'am, we'll come back to this, and continuing with whatever questions you have raised in our minds, whatever the doubts as parents we have, we'll now invite Dr. Shweta Verma. Ma'am, are you there? Shweta ma'am? Yeah. So ma'am, we were saying we teach our children to socialize. So we help them in writing these social scripts. So as a person who has worked with differently able children with whatever kinds of mental, physical learning disabilities they have, so what is your take as a parent, as well as a parent of a child who is differently able? So how do those parents, or what is the parenting that is involved in helping these children write their own social scripts to be able to expand their own social horizons?
Yeah,
Shweta ma'am.
thank you, Ratna. So today when I talk about parenting and what I do, what people do, what people need to do, I'm going to talk as one, of course, parent of a child with disability and congenital health conditions, but also as a founder and CEO of Guinea's Planet, which we started last year with the objective that we want to build a world where nobody is odd one out. So where nobody is excluded or ridiculed just because they are different. And so in our world, being different is being okay. And what I want to do is structure this conversation through few slides. So if right now screen sharing is not allowed, so I think I'll just continue with what I would like to say then. Now, when I say that we want to build a world where nobody's odd one out, what we're also saying again and again through our everyday conversation with our own child, as well as our trainings with other children. And these are not just children with disabilities. The trainings that we have are also for children who belong to the general population. So the messages that are going from us is being different is being okay. And that is the kind of message that we are spreading through our stories, storybooks, trainings, and even dolls. So Guinea is our lead character, and she's a child with a radial club hand and vision problems. But how she and her friends, how they lead their life and how they have fun, that's something that we focus on when we also talk to children during the workshops. I think because this conversation today is a very mixed one. We're looking at it in the current context as well as the context of everyday life, like within COVID, beyond COVID, and throughout future, what is it that we need to look at? And some points have already been touched upon by the previous speaker. So things like, what kind of attention is being given to the child. And obviously what also happened during this time with children at home is that either there was a lot of disciplining and a lot of instruction giving, like the examples you've already heard, or parents have been preoccupied with their own struggles during this time, because you have to sustain a job, you have to run the family, you have to manage several things. So the change in attention that was given to a child obviously
Excuse
changed.
me, Shweta ji,
Ji.
Screen sharing is allowed now.
Okay, all right. So let me start with that so that okay, so can everybody see the screen?
Yeah, we can see.
Okay, sure. Okay. So currently what is happening, some points have already been shared and I think other speakers will also talk about it. So one is change in attention span and the way attention was being given by grown-ups. We saw it happening in my own family. Of course, it happens. The change routine for everybody, including children, and still hit by the change routine. And as adults, we tend to focus more on how it affects us, but obviously it is affecting and it is children as well. Changed behavior of adults, right from panicking to becoming overcautious is required, but children are looking at it in a different manner. For example, my son, he has allergies, allergic problems due to dust, and he was coughing. The lockdown had not been announced yet. He was coughing, and he was made to sit in the medical room first, and then he was sent home. And he's still very, very hurt, and he's angry with his teacher that she said that she'll come back to me in 2 minutes in the medical room, and she never came, and she excluded me from the class. So, and he's 4 years old. So for him that was a big deal, how he was being excluded and how he felt he was being excluded, and he keeps coughing. So I think he's going to be excluded later on as well for other reasons. Then what kind of information is available for children in their format? That becomes a challenge, because we use big words, we use big numbers. It does not make sense to each child. And of course emotional impacts, bedwetting, aggressiveness, anything else. And what we keep saying again and again is something that I think most people in this group know, that it's important not to label children that they have behavioral problems. Many things that they're doing or saying right now are just response to the context. So let's stick to that. And within that, like Ratna started by talking about children who are invisible, and we say the same thing when we talk about children. We keep insisting that children are not homogeneous groups, and you have to look beyond the child that you can see. Even within your family, you have to go beyond that child. So what about children where somebody was diagnosed with the infection? What about children on street? What about children in institutional care? Children with disabilities, those who are being born now with congenital problems. I know my son's surgery got delayed by 3 months, and we're still waiting for it because it was a non-emergent surgery. So it had to be just postponed, and that's what we're dealing with. Children who are affected by stigma and exclusion because their families were being stigmatized and excluded, either because of their caste or because of their faith or because of wherever they are coming from or living. So especially children in poverty areas. And digital divide, even if we talk about online classes, online webinars and everything, digital divide obviously became very prominent. It's not true for everybody. So what we say right now, not just for COVID or any other reality, but we also say why we need to build back better. Okay, you've reached certain age, certain stage with your child, and this child may have certain strengths, certain limitations, certain barriers from the environment. How do we move ahead by building things better rather than staying with how things are? Because that is the challenge that all of us face, even as parents, that we're not happy with how things are. We want to change things around them. That was one of the reasons we started Beginnings Planet. We have to look at children from their context. So I understand, let's say, my son's context, but that does not give me an authority to understand everybody else's context. Even if I work in the disability rights sector, it does not give me the authority to say that I know the life of every child or every parent. I don't. And I think that's where, as parents, we need to remember that comparison does not help. I've been in part of the conversations where I've held myself back when I've heard the conversation happening, like parents asking each other, आपके बच्चे को कितने % disability है? Oh, अच्छा, आपके बच्चे को 50% है, मेरे बच्चे को 100% है. And that conversation does not create an empathic environment for anybody. So, how do we also, as parents of children with disabilities, become more empathic ourselves? We want it from the world, but we also have to do it with each other. And how do we continue to create predictability, consistency in the environments of children? And of course, when it comes to professionals, professionals who are either counselors or work with children in everyday manner, touching was everyday part of their life. I mean, as a professional, I may not have done it, but I know other people do that. And now they will have to depend on their actually other skills of working with children. And touching is not going to be the most common thing anymore. So how do you go back and strengthen your skills, the other kinds of skills that you require right now to move ahead in this kind of context where you won't be hugging, holding, touching children as easily as you used to? And how are you using the free resources that have just suddenly become available in the last 3 months? Free stories, storytelling, activities, there's so much that is being available, because all of us have to ensure that we have to use what is available to ensure that nobody is left behind. So what do we do and what do we urge other parents to do? And it's an easy thing because we on parents and children, and we say, let's nurture the skills and perspectives that will build a compassionate world. Of course, my hidden personal agenda in this whole scenario is that I want a world which treats my son in a better manner. I also want my son to become okay with who he is. So how do I do that? I do that through workshops. So we also share the same perspectives with children in their level, but we also share the same perspectives with parents. So we're saying that, if you have to nurture empathy, you want people to shower empathy towards your child, you also have to nurture it within your child. And you have to help people understand that in the same situation, to assume, what people think and feel, you have to ask. And sometimes it's all right to ask rather than just assuming. And it's important that you don't dismiss people's feeling even if you disagree. So basic things that parents have to nurture within children, but also scolding
Your
children
voice is breaking,
when
Shweta
they
ma'am.
see an action, because it's always important.
Ma'am, your voice is breaking.
Okay. So maybe I'll not use slide for some time because the connection. Okay. Okay. Is it better now? Because I've also now kept my video off so that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's better.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So I'm saying that, as people who work with children and offer these workshops, we also try to share the perspectives with parents by saying that, how can you be the role models? How do you create opportunities to nurture empathy? How do you help other children understand and your child understand as to how can you respond to differences and diversity? And similarly, how do you nurture this, skill of finding answers yourself? Because, obviously parents don't teach their children about disability. Let's say maybe my child has one, so maybe I will nurture this perspective in him, but maybe other parents won't. So how do we help other parents nurture this perspective that disability exists? You can't invisibilize it. You actually have to have answers when child points at another child and asks you something. So how do we help children prepare those answers is also something that we try and work towards. So basically, when we look at children with disabilities, my own take as a professional and as a parent and as Green's Planet is this that it is important to work with a child and to build this perspective that being different is okay. But at the same time, if we don't do this with the other children around this child, then we fail. And that's the effort that I think all of us need to make, that we work with all children and we keep on building this perspective so that we build a compassionate world. So that is where I'll end right now. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am. And you rightly said, yes, we have to develop an empathetic, a nurturing environment. And it's such a tedious task, a very painstaking task to do it. But still, as a parent, we all need to do it. And now, my friend Nicole. Nicole, we understand that parenting is all about creating a balance, because we want to build independence in our children. It's balance between discipline, expectations, into real children. So, as a parent, what is your formula of this mix and match of so many things, keeping in the age of the child? So, we'd like to hear from you, Nicole. And before you begin, I can see we have an eminent personality among us, Vikram Duttji. So Vikram sir, I really welcome you. Though you're not a speaker for today, but you are. We all look up to you for many things, including our own issues, personal and professional. So thank you for joining us. So welcome, Nicole, and now it's all yours.
Thank you, Ratna. And it's so wonderful to catch up after so many years. So
Yeah.
good to even see you. Brings back lots of memories
Same here.
of. So, hello everyone. Good afternoon. Okay, this is the first time I've been asked to speak as a parent, but I guess so. I'm just going to share some experiences. I think being a social worker, I think one has always been very conscious of my role as a child rights social worker and my role as a parent, and sort of trying to be aware of hypocrisies and double standards in terms of what I'm preaching and then my practices back home. I have to say, I love parenting my two girls. They are now almost 14. I like them more in this stage, to be very honest, than when they were younger and very dependent for needs. Uh, the few things that I have learned and I try to practice along the way, I would just like to share. One is we try not to, and I have to acknowledge the role of my partner and my spouse in this. I think we have worked hard, and I think this is one piece that I would love to share with all parents, that it's very important for both the parents to share common values and be on the same plane where parenting is concerned. नहीं तो हम बहुत mixed messages, we give out a lot of mixed messages. There's a lot of confused signaling that goes out to children. So I think this is something that helps. I have to acknowledge my privilege and the fact that I have a supportive partner. And it may not be the case for everybody, but still, this is something that we have to constantly work on as parents, because as children grow, their needs, the challenges, the problems, even the good experiences, they keep changing. In a very fast evolving world where technology has now taken over the lives of children, I think it's constantly very important for two partners, the parents, to be on the same page and also draw lines. In India, we have grandparents, uncles, aunties, everybody constantly offering opinions and telling us how we should raise our children. But to even draw those lines between us as parents and the extended family around us and our children. Another thing that I would like to share is with children, I think while there's so much pressure on us, especially in middle class, what will our children be? How will they turn out? The academics. But I think one thing, maybe being a child rights worker, I feel very strongly is a large part of parenting must be about preserving childhood, enhancing childhood, making childhood as significant, as meaningful as possible. Because I think what children experience in their childhood is what carries them into and through adulthood as they grow and journey through their lives. So I think we'd work, and I'm not saying it's easy, because you do worry, what will your children turn out to be? How will they cope? How will they earn? How will they stand on their own feet? But given that, I think really preserving the fun moments, allowing them to have lag time, not always focused on the academics. There's so much else to learn. And how many of us in what we do today really hark back to what we learned in school and college? While of course those grades and all of that are important, and but I really think we must push ourselves to preserve childhood. Another thing I feel with parenting is, and especially me, it's a problem because I have twins. I have one chance. I don't have an older or a younger where I can learn from experiences. Iske saath thoda galat experience hua to change it around with the second child. No, I have only one shot, hit or miss. So sometimes I really feel we are shooting blind, but I think it's okay. Be true to what you feel and the kind of values and environment that you want to raise your child in, and move forward. Also be honest. I think being frank, being honest with children is, and to be very factual with children. Of course, age appropriate, break it down to what is appropriate for them as per the age and stage that they're in. But I find if you are honest with children, keep explaining to them what's happening in our home, in school, in the environment around them, I think it's really helpful, and I find that it creates a very open space for discussion and talking. I also feel it's important to recognize the person. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't mean to use jargon, but to recognize the personhood of our children, not to and to allow space for questioning and discussion. Children have a lot of questions, and if we don't encourage them to question in childhood, which means people will not like when children ask questions, because we always think कि तुम बच्चा हो, तुम सिर्फ इतना तक बात कर सकते हो, तुम ज्यादा नहीं बात कर सकते हो. But if we allow children to ask questions, we prepare them much better for the world. And also, when they are adults, they will ask more questions about the world around them. I also believe, and this is, routine and structure for children. I think it's very important if we structure. I'm not saying pressurize them to be actively doing things all the time, but if we create a pattern and a structure to their time, we have uncluttered children. If our children live an uncluttered life, their minds are automatically uncluttered. So this is something as a parent, I try to practice as much as possible, so that we're very mindful of our time. And I find this is exceptionally helpful in the COVID time when we are all at home and and one day looks exactly like the next. We parents are dealing with a lot of stress, our work, our home, our cleaning. We've all now have to, those of us who had help to help us with our tasks and chores at home, we've all had to do it ourselves. So a lot of things we are doing. And I think if our children have a structure and a pattern to their day, they will spend and utilize their time better. The last piece that I'd want to say is, as parents, we need to be very clear what we stand for, draw boundaries with our children. Within those boundaries, encourage questions and a lot of discussion. But if we are clear, our children will be clear, what we stand for will be clear. This brings me to discuss a little bit on technology. I think as parents with social media, there's this constant pressure on children to be on gadgets, to be on phones. And I think this is something where we have to really be mindful and conscious about when we are dealing with our children, because I feel we need to create more space for children's personalities and thoughts to form, not to throw them out there into this ocean where they are constantly being bombarded by information, constantly feeling pressure to respond, forming groups in a very, in a very artificial way, these WhatsApp groups forming, leaving certain children out, doing a lot of bullying. And I find we must draw the line and kind of limit this idle access to technology and the smartphone device that we keep putting in the hands of our children. We must try as far as possible to resist throwing our children out into that ocean. I'm not saying technology is bad. If we didn't have technology, we wouldn't be here today. But I think children need that space to think, to form thoughts, to form their persons, to form their personalities, to form their characters, before we just throw them out there into that ocean of WhatsApp and Instagram and Twitter, where there is constant pressure. On that note, I'm going to end and hand it back to you, Ratna.
Thank you, Nicole. The best thing was that we are again back to square one in parenting, because you are again saying it's a balance, ensuring that they preserve the childhood, create boundaries, give them answers to all the questions. That is where every parent starts, and we are still doing that, practicing that. But thanks a lot for all the positive things that you have said. And we really believe that we should keep communicating with our children, keeping their age in mind. And the best part was having a supportive partner. So I think we are few lucky ones who have a partner who shares the same parenting ideology as the mother or the father. We are on the same platform. So thank you so much, Nicole. And I move on to Pratima ma'am. Pratima ma'am, we again say we take into account the birth order of the child when we are doing parenting. We try to see the level of intelligence, the personality type, the gender of the child while parenting our own children. So since you have moved on from college students to now kindergarten, so there's a huge range that you have covered. So now we'd like to hear from you your challenges as a parent and the experiences that you have had with such a from kids to adult, young youth. So we'd like to hear from you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Ratna. Thank you, sir, Shashank sir, for giving me this opportunity to talk on this platform. Let me tell you about myself. I have two daughters. One is 12 years, another one will be 9 soon. Now, I have seen a lot of challenges with them. Two girls, one is into sports, another one is completely into studies or into cooking. The younger one is into cooking. And the first lesson which I think, which I got from for the parenting is when I actually started thinking about parenting, that was when I discussed with Tulika ma'am, Shashank sir's wife. She was my colleague. And I am really thankful to her to give me so much of thought about the parenting and which makes me interesting into this particular thing. Now, after teaching in so many years in the management colleges and now into the preschool industry, I have seen a lot of parents, and now I can also make out that what goes wrong with the parenting and why at times when the children they become adult, why they behave in a particular way. In the current scenario, especially when we have a lifestyle which keeps us busy almost all the time, both the parents, whether working or one of the parent is at home, there are a lot of difficulties which they are facing. I have seen that in the nuclear setup, especially with the two children only, we think that our whole time is for the children. We are spending everything, whatever we are doing is all for the children. But at times, I really feel that we are not doing it. Even in my journey as a parent, I have observed it. I am trying to improve day by day. And I am learning a lot in whole of this process. I have seen that when the children, they are small, I would like to share one presentation with all of you. Just give me a minute. We always feel that parenting is the easiest thing in the world to have an opinion about, but actually it is the hardest thing. What I have observed and some of the points which I have noted while dealing with the small children in my preschool and their parents, I have seen the important aspect is always to to the children. We value our time, but we do not, we do not prefer to give the quality time with the children. We always say that if a mother is at home all the time and, she is whole of the time, the child is not ready to listen. The child is developing the bad behavior. It rarely means, many of the times I have seen the working mothers, they especially have a lot of guilt that they are not able to spend time with their children. But actually, this is not the fact. Even when we are, what I feel is even when we are spending time, that is even 5 minutes with our child, the whole of the 5 minutes, each and every second of the 5 minutes should be of the child, which we are not doing. Whether we are there should be a proper time. Many a times I have spoken to a lot many parents who do not, prefer to eat with the children. Everybody has a different pattern. Everybody has a different lifestyle. And the result is that children, they do not feel the very small issues which we generalize is कि बच्चा टाइम पे खाना नहीं खाता, बच्चे के पीछे हमको भागना पड़ता है, बच्चा is not ready to listen to us. They are pampered by the grandchildren, but we never look at that what actually we are doing. Are we ready to spend time with the children? We always say this, everything is for the children, but it is, the child feels the love. And the best thing, the most important thing is the child is God gifted by understanding. They understand everything. They understand the body language, and this is something where we are lacking when we are not able to give. We think that we are giving time to the child, we are listening to them, but actually at times, even if some other thoughts are coming to our mind, we are not giving 100% of ourselves. The child will understand it, and the child may later on, many a child, like my younger one, she is very extrovert. She talks a lot. She is outspoken. She'll always come to me and she'll say, Mama, what are you thinking? You are not listening to me properly. And this is something which I have observed in many other children also. Till date, I have dealt with a lot of children, and especially their parents. When I study their parents, I have seen this is the biggest reason. And when I have given them these ideas that you should spend time, please forget about your mobile, just be full with the child, they have seen a lot of changes into it. And then after that, there is another point, that is listen to them carefully. We may spend time with them, but at times we are very bossy. As a parent, we do not listen to the children. We do not tell them. We are always ready to tell them something or the other, but we do not give them the chance to speak. This is something which is also very important. Few of the children who are outspoken, they can still raise their points. Few other children having a different personality who are very quiet, they might not be able to tell what they are feeling. They have their emotions. We should not treat them as the puppet. We should always listen what they want to say. When we are spending the time with them, even there are a lot of things which we are facing in the society. And many of the times, it is only because parents are not ready to listen to the children. A lot of abuses, when we discuss, so many a times it really, बहुत ज्यादा कई बार बहुत परेशानी होती है ये चीज जानकर कि पेरेंट्स को पता कैसे नहीं लगा कि this is something which is happening with the child. It is only and only because we are not ready to listen to them. We are not ready to spend time with them. So this is something which is really very important, and I think we should give them the chance, and we should always have a daily chatting time with them. I still remember my father when he was in the army, and we always have whether he had a busy schedule or whatever, in the evening time, we always had 1 hour time, whether it was exam time or anything, when we used to discuss a lot many things. At that time we have not realized that how important that was. But now I really can make out that was the time when all of the family was together eating, having the evening snacks. And during that time, we used to spend a lot of time. We used to discuss the problems which our parents were going through, the problems which as a children we were going through. And that has given us a lot of confidence to discuss. And this is something which is really important because of the lifestyle which we are, facing nowadays. We are going away from all these things. But this is, this is really very important. Another most important thing which I really feel is lacking is we are not ready to tell our children the truth. We always hide, even if it is about anything, any problem which is going on in the family. children, as I have said earlier, I feel they have a very strong, understanding. They have a strong sixth sense. They can make out what is going wrong in the family, whether it is between the relations, between husband and wife, or with anything else. But this is something which we should know. We should always tell them the truth. Another important thing is, while I of child abuse and all, I came to know that we always, we always hide a lot many facts. We don't even tell them the right names of their body parts, which is something which is very alarming. The result is, the children, they feel betrayed. The moment they came to know that this was something, our parents were telling us something else. I have seen many a times there are a lot many questions, like especially about the birth. When the small children, they ask the questions for the birth, how the baby has come into your tummy, from where will the baby will come out, how the baby is, what has happened, why my blood group is different than your blood group, mama, when I was in your tummy. All these questions, it is all logical. They are all intelligent kids who are asking these questions. But the fact is, we always, give them some story or the other to hide the fact. When they will grow up, today when it is the era of information technology, a lot many information is already available to them. And on these things, if we will not tell them the truth, the result will be they'll feel cheated. They will never come to you. What is important is, that is, I personally feel the important is, the most important thing is to develop a connection between the parent and the child. Whatever is going on in our society, the kind of stress with the children, which the children are facing today, that can always be dealt with only and only we as a parent can develop a good connection with them. When my daughter menstruation cycle started recently, so since she used to travel, she's a tennis player, so I have told everything initially when she used to travel with her father. So that time I have told her father also that this is something which can happen, because nowadays you don't know when it will start. So when she was 10 years, then only I have told her father also when he was traveling with her. And however, it all happened recently when I was with her on one of her tournaments, but she is very comfortable when she takes it. She can easily talk to her father also. She can always talk to, she can discuss. There is no problem. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, but you need to wind up.
Yeah. So this is something which is really very important. We should tell the children the truth. If the truth is there, the children will definitely will be connected properly, connected with their parents. They will never feel cheated. They will never go to here and there for the wrong, for all kind of information which is available. Another important point that I feel that I have come across is the comparisons which are made in our society. Comparison, whether it is a girl or a boy, whether it is on the basis of the color, on the basis of, the health, the body shaming, all sort of things are happening. But this is something which we need to work on, because these are some of the things which always affects the confidence of the child once they grow up. And whatever is happening is, somewhere or other, we all are responsible for it. And the last point which I feel is about the helicopter parenting. Reason, we all know about helicopter parenting. The parents, either they are very relaxing, they, they give all kind of permissions to the child, or they are helicopter parent where they are, every time they are after the life of the child. I think we should give some space to them. And once all these things will happen, then definitely I feel that we'll be able to give a happy and confident life to the children, which is really very important. When they grow up, when we dealt with management students, the postgraduate students, there are n number of things which used to come across my mind that why they behave in a particular way. But now when I deal with the smaller ones, now I can make out that what is something which is, what is going wrong. It is always and always with the parenting. Many times the parents, they will, they will tell all sort of stories. They have all sort of things to talk about. But actually, I think we should really need to work on it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
It was really an enlightening session, and especially when you focused on our changing lifestyles and how we need to deal with our children and to tell them the truth and allow them space to open up and share whatever thoughts or experiences they have. Thank you so much. And now, Shashank ji, we have known each other and I've seen how you have encouraged your own children to be cooperative, to understand the consequences, and you've been very encouraging them on each topic that they have brought forward. So now I request you to share your experiences as a parent and not as a lawyer. Welcome, Shashank ji.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Actually, I will be addressing this platform in Hindi and English both. As an advocate, I learned something. As a social human being, you learn in the social processes involved in socializing. I can't say to what extent I am a successful parent or not, because I have no one to just to feel about my parenting. It has to be felt by my children. My children, as far as my parenting is concerned, I can very well say, very confidently say that I have given two beautiful, not I, whatever Nicole has said, I am also admitting to it, that me and my wife and my parents have given two beautiful citizens, law-abiding, human, full of human values, two citizens to this world. My only concern with my children were that we have to give this world to such citizens who can be the torch bearers, who can be the torch bearers in this society. And I hope I have completely succeeded in it. So that was one angle. But as an advocate, I have another angle also. और वो angle था intergenerational equity का. जब हम as an advocate intergenerational equity की बात करते हैं, तो हम ये बात करते हैं कि जो सिटीजन जो हमारे बाद आने वाली संतति है, जो हमारे बाद आने वाले लोग हैं, उनको हम कैसे एक बेटर वर्ल्ड दे सकते हैं. और वो बेटर वर्ल्ड बनाना, उस बेटर वर्ल्ड की संरचना करना आज के हमारी आज की जनरेशन की ड्यूटी है. And I have tried to do so, and I feel and I am sure that I have completely succeeded in it. सिर्फ अपने दो बच्चों की बात मैं नहीं करूं, उसके अलावा भी मेरे लाखों लाख बच्चे हैं जो दिल्ली के बच्चे हैं. वो बच्चे हैं जो स्ट्रीट्स पे घूम रहे हैं, वो बच्चे हैं जो स्कूल्स में जाते हैं, जो स्कूल से ड्रॉप आउट हो जाते हैं, वो बच्चे हैं जिनको हम लोगों ने राइट टू एजुकेशन एक्ट के तहत जिनका प्राइवेट स्कूल्स में एडमिशन कराया था, एंड वी सॉ टू इट that they should continue over there. तो वो भी उन सारे बच्चों के लिए भी मैं अपने एज अ मेंबर दिल्ली कमीशन फॉर प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ चाइल्ड राइट्स, मैं अपने उन बच्चों के लिए भी जो कर सकता था मैंने किया. एंड आई फॉट फॉर देम लाइक एनीथिंग फॉर 6 continuous years, and thereafter I fought for them. अब रही बात कि सोसाइटी से हमने क्या सीखा. सोसाइटी में देखिए, फ्रॉम बीइंग अ रूरल बैकग्राउंड, having a rural background, दो चीजें जो मैंने सीखी वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट थी. एक चीज थी, पुराना एक कहावत है हमारे गांवों में कि बाढ़े पूत पिता के कर्मा धर्मा और खेती उपजे अपने कर्मा. लेकिन थोड़ा सा ये चूंकि पुरानी कहावत है, इसलिए हम पूत को और पुत्री दोनों मान देंगे और पिता को माता और पिता दोनों मानेंगे. So, माता और पिता का जो धर्म हम निभाते हैं उसके अनुसार हमारे बच्चे आगे बढ़ते हैं. यदि मैं चाइल्ड राइट्स के फील्ड में था, इन द ईयर 2000 आई हैड माय फर्स्ट इंटरैक्शन विद जुवेनाइल जस्टिस एक्ट. 2003 में हमने पहला PIL किया, जुवेनाइल जस्टिस एक्ट के इम्प्लीमेंटेशन का. 2003 के पहले मैं ये नहीं कह सकता कि मैं उतना सेंसिटिव पेरेंट्स था, मैं उतना सेंसिटिव गार्जियन था जितना मैं 2003 के बाद हुआ, बिकॉज ऑफ माय एक्सपोजर टू जुवेनाइल जस्टिस सिस्टम। 2003 के पहले मैं भी एक फादर था। मेरे बेटे ने फादर का वो भी रूप देखा जहाँ एक फादर बच्चे के साथ फिजिकल टॉर्चर करता है, बच्चे की पिटाई करता है, बच्चे में अपना एक्सपेक्टेशंस देखता है। मुझे नहीं अच्छा मार्क्स आया तो तुम्हें आना चाहिए, मैं सक्सेसफुल नहीं हूं तो तुम्हें सक्सेसफुल होना चाहिए। वो सारी चीजें मैं भी अपने बच्चे में देखा करता था टिल 2003। मेरे बेटे ने 7-8 रफ इयर्स मेरे साथ गुजारे, लेकिन 2003 के बाद there was a drastic change in my personality and my thoughts, and which helped a lot, जिसने मेरे बच्चों की पर्सनालिटी को बनाने में बहुत मेरी मदद की। And somehow I feel कि I became their role model. After 2003 I became their role model. मेरे बच्चों में आज भी उतनी ही ये है लगाव है बच्चों को चाइल्ड राइट्स के प्रति, वो उतना ही लॉ अबाइडिंग सिटीजन है, वो उतना ही जेंटल और मीक है। तो ये वो चीजें हैं जो मेरे बच्चों ने मेरे कर्म से सीखा, मेरे और मेरी वाइफ और मेरे फैमिली मेंबर्स के कर्मों से मेरे बच्चों ने सीखा, और आज वो उनका एक पर्सनालिटी ट्रेट हो गया है। दूसरा जो एक इंपॉर्टेंट प्रोवर्ब मैंने अपनी जिंदगी में देखा, वो प्रोवर्ब है कि का धन अर्जा जब पूत सपूता और का धन अर्जा जब पूत कपूता। मीन्स कि आप क्या पैसा जमा करके यदि आपका बेटा अच्छा नहीं निकला तो वो तो खत्म हो जाएगा। बच्चा, बेटा मीन्स बच्चा, इट मे बी अ बॉय, इट मे बी अ गर्ल चाइल्ड, या यदि वो अच्छा है, आपने उसको एक अच्छा आदमी बना दिया तो वो खुद भी सब कुछ अर्ज कर लेगा, अर्ज करके अपनी दुनिया खुद बसा लेगा। तो ये वो सारी चीजें हैं जो हमने सोसाइटी से सीखी, और कुछ हमारे लॉ लीगल प्रोफेशन ने सिखाया, कुछ मुझे दुनिया ने सिखाया, और वो उन सारी चीजों को एक जगह करके हमने अपने बच्चों के अंदर डालने की कोशिश की। और शायद आज इसलिए हमारे बच्चे, मैं बहुत प्राउड के साथ कह सकता हूं कि मैंने एक लॉ अबाइडिंग बहुत ही खूबसूरत 2 सिटीजन इस वर्ल्ड को दिया है, जो मेरे नहीं रहने के बाद भी मेरी फिलॉसफी को, मेरे लाइफ को और दुनिया के हर अच्छे एस्पेक्ट को हाईलाइट करेंगे। तीसरा जो इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्टर मैंने देखा है, मैंने अपने बच्चों के साथ किया, मैं अपने बच्चों के साथ कभी रॉन्ग रोल मॉडल की तरह नहीं प्रस्तुत किया। मैंने हमेशा एक आइडियल रोल मॉडल की तरह बच्चों को के सामने अपने आप को प्रस्तुत किया, और हमेशा उनके सामने वैसे लोगों की बड़ाई की, वैसे लोगों की प्रशंसा की जिनके थ्रू, जिनकी तरह हम अपने बच्चे को बनते देखना चाहते थे। और आज ये इसी कारण से मुझे लगता है कि वो खुद एक चैनलाइज्ड एफर्ट्स में आ गए और उन्होंने खुद अपने लिए एक सही रास्ता चुना। बट अगेन आई मस्ट से, जो निकोल ने कहा, इट हैपेंड नॉट ओनली बिकॉज ऑफ मी, इट हैपेंड बिकॉज ऑफ माय फैमिली, बिकॉज ऑफ माय वाइफ तुलिका। हम दोनों ने मिलकर अपने बच्चों को वो गाइडेंस दिया, वो रास्ता दिखाया, इस पे आज मेरे बच्चे चल रहे हैं, एंड आई एम क्वाइट सेटिस्फाइड। थैंक यू, एंड बैक टू रत्ना। रत्ना प्लीज।
थैंक यू शशांक जी। और आपने अपने 2 कहावत तो कही, लेकिन आप वो भूल गए जो हम ये मान के चलते हैं।
जी बताएं।
कि फूल तो 2 दिन बहार फिजा दिखाकर चले गए, हसरत तो फूलों पे है जो बिन खिले मुरझा
गए। ये एक्चुअली हमारा मोटो है, ये हमारे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का मोटो है। और ये जो बिन खिले मुरझा गए,
तो ये मोटो,
हाँ रत्ना बताएं।
लेकर हम इसीलिए चल रहे हैं अपने 2, हाँ शशांक जी, मैं कह रही हूँ ये मोटो लेके हम इसीलिए चल रहे हैं कि अपने 2 बच्चे तो हमारे पास हैं, और हम उनके लिए जो सही लगा उस समय में जब वो बड़े हो रहे थे हम लोगों ने किया। लेकिन ऐसे जो बच्चे, जब हम चाइल्ड प्रोटेक्शन सिस्टम में आ गए, आज वो बच्चों को, मतलब हमने कभी उनके लिए, ना मैं उनके लिए अडॉप्टिव पेरेंट रही, ना मैं पेरेंट रही, ना मैंने उन्हें कभी स्पॉन्सर किया, लेकिन वो बच्चे जिनको हमने इमोशनल सपोर्ट दिया, हैंड होल्डिंग की उनकी, वो आज वापस बड़े होकर अपनी लाइफ में से दे आर स्टार्टेड गिविंग बैक टू सोसाइटी। तो ये एक तरह का मॉडल हम लोग कर रहे हैं। अब हमारे पास जो चैट्स में एक सवाल आया है, वो विक्रम जी का आया है, और मैं चाहूंगी हमारे पैनलिस्ट उसको सुने और उसका जवाब दें। उनका सवाल था एक minute, give me a minute. उनका क्वेश्चन था कि till recently during workshops with parents in various schools, the primary concern of parents invariably was the child's fascination for the mobile. Today, the mobile has become the new lifeline to even education. Are we readjusting our understanding of passionate understanding of the digital situation? So our panelists would like to respond. Are we changing our own understanding?
May I?
Anita ma'am? Yeah, please.
Yeah, you know, as I'm responding as a mother,
Yeah.
um,
Yes,
it's
Nicole.
it's a tricky one because yes, a lot of education now is moved online for privileged children, not underprivileged children. Um, and yes, we have to leave our children with these gadgets, but there are ways to watch it and monitor it and to set limits and hours for when children will be on these gadgets. But I feel very strongly the more we are able to limit it, the better it is for our children because it is a completely unmonitored, unregulated world out there. The more we throw them, it's like putting a 10-year-old into a car and saying, drive, bacha. So we have to be very conscious um, about setting these limits, doing our best to watch, to see what is going on, and ensuring that the gadgets are put away at an agreed and specific time. When children are on gadgets, try to put them in a space where people are walking past by in the house and we can see what's going on.
Thank you, Nicole. Vanita ma'am, would you like to respond? You have to unmute. Yeah.
Totally agree with Nicole that it has become a need, but we have to see it in the context of that if this is available, this must be used, but it has to be really monitored. I think even before this lockdown, whenever I had parents who came to me for counseling, one of the biggest things that they were grappling with was providing a smartphone very early on and being very proud of it at that time that I've given my daughter an iPhone 6, iPhone 7, and then the consequences of that were so hard to alter. So I think this is it's a very powerful tool and it has to be monitored equally powerfully because of the kind of things we are finding and the kind of problems that we are facing because of this. It's absolutely very, very important that parents understand the problem that this is going to raise even more.
Thank you, ma'am. There's another question from Ansarji. He says children are taking to drugs. How do you tackle this evil? Who would like to respond from the panelist?
I mean, if somebody else wants to go first, that's fine, or else I could.
Yeah, please go, Nicole.
I think we need to talk about it and we need to educate our children. Children also take to drugs. They are impulsive and all of that at this age, but there are lots of other vacuums that lead them to drugs. So I think as parents, we need to be cognizant and work. It's a constant work in progress, keeping that open environment, understanding what is going on with our children. Keep a watch on who the peers are. I'm not saying judge children and be unaccepting of children who may be so-called naughty, but judge, keep it, don't judge, but keep it open, talk. And I feel even parent to parent, I notice very often, and I see this always happen in my children's class, parents will notice something going terribly wrong and they will keep quiet about it. So have the courage to even talk to other parents when we, not from a point of view or judging or calling out or labeling a particular child as bad, but to understand it is a community problem. And if we are not going to support each other, then this is only going to increase. It is increasing more and more. The younger generations are not doing simple things like cigarettes and alcohol. They are going straight into drugs. We have to acknowledge, we have to ask, and I'm going into a mode of social worker, we have to ask and demand for services for children for this, because there are very few and far between, and certainly for the poorer sections of society who can't afford to pay for private rehabilitation, it is impossible. There's nothing. It is at zero. At best, you'll get a cheap detox facility, but nothing more than that.
Thanks. Thanks. So there is one question for, I think, Vanita ma'am. Yes. At what age an adopted child should be told that he or she is an adopted baby, and how can it be told?
Okay, before I answer that, I just want to, very, very important thing parent and child makes. This openness of talking about different things, instructional, that there is no room to just talk about various things which the child is seeing or hearing or trying to make sense of, because there's such a urgent need that you have to succeed in your test, in your exam and all this. So I think it also is to do with the fact that I've heard so many young children tell me that, oh, my mother will never understand. Every time I come in front of her, she just says, oh, why don't you study? Why don't you do this? Or why don't you do that? So there is very little room left for parents to, for children to talk. Just so many questions they have in their heart. And I think the whole reason why they're not able to even, of course, every child will experiment with the various things. But even that experimentation, sometimes when it's shared by the father saying, oh, well, I also did try it and this happened or that. So there is a non-judgmental kind of discourse around it, which is very critical. I think that, of course, if it becomes a problem, one has to deal with it in that sense. But I'm talking about the pre-aspect of it, that, you haven't had that connect early on enough to be able to then deal with it when it comes up. So it has to be that openness that we have to have. So coming to the question of adoption and telling, I think, again, it is an important aspect of somebody's mic is
on.
Can we switch
Kindly unmute others.
It's XT1033 who should mute.
So what we generally do say that children do not really make sense of the term adoption before 6 or 7 years of age, when they're cognitively ready to understand the whole concept. But it becomes very hard to address that issue so late. So we do say that please start about it when you begin storytelling. So when the child is about 3 or 4, we start with, simple stories. And one of the stories can be the story of the child. That where did you come from, how we saw you, and how we you came to us. So it begins a very simple story. And then, of course, the introduction of the word adoption.
Please, others, unmute yourself. We can't hear her.
I'm unmuted.
No. The others should also mute themselves.
Okay. So gradually it has to be built upon. So you begin with the understanding that, basically every child who comes into a family belongs. A word which actually very often people use and which is very problematic to children who are adopted is she your real child? Is she your own child? I think this is a word which is very problematic to young children, and especially those who have 2 children, one who's adopted and one who's biological. Both children are my own children. Both children are real children. They belong to me in a sense. And this aspect of belonging, that doesn't necessarily have to be that you have to be birthed by the parent, is something which gradually builds up. And just to share a personal experience, I remember my daughter who was told very early through stories, through everything. At 6, suddenly said, look, I know you've told me that story, but that's a story. I have to be born out of your stomach and do whatever. And she cried and cried and cried and said, I have to be born out of you. So I just really didn't know what to do. And finally, I just said, let me put her on myself, wrapped her around, and I just did a role play as if she was going to be born of me. And I said, now, well, you're born of me. And we continued. It's not that it was a lie. We went back and forth on the same thing. But the reassurance of the fact that I belong to you has to keep on coming back and forth. It's a very hard thing. I have colleagues, I have friends who have adopted children, who know of my work research in this area, but find it so hard to tell their children, because somehow that fear that once she knows or he knows, they're not going to love me in the same way. But I do feel that that honesty, like every relationship, is built on some sense of honesty, some sense of truthfulness and sincerity. I think it's the right of the child to know this story. And however hurtful it may be for the child, I think it is their right. And we will have to deal with the problems that come out of it during the younger ages. It is a problem. But I do also know when adults, we have done some studies where, you know, a 45-year-old or a 60-year-old came to know when her adoptive mother passed away. And there was so much anger and grief that she couldn't bring a closure to it. So it is very important that our relationships are built on a, you know, bedrock of honesty and sincerity. So I would say you begin early at 3 years, but gradually you add more things to it. You don't have to say everything at the age of 3 years, but you build as the child grows in terms of his cognitive abilities.
Thank you, ma'am. There's another statement from Neeru Chaudhary. With regard to mobile phones, I think we need to make continual efforts to discipline using the art of negotiation. Best anyhow is that we
share our concerns.
Yeah. And then she also added, I have worked out a written schedule during lockdown for all of us in the family with the children's participation, which is also open to periodic revisions. I think it has helped all of us preserve our sanity and spend good time with each other. That sounds great. And Vikramji has again reiterated that the government is now willing to go for digitization, and they want every person, every child should be have access. So that is another concern that has been raised. Then there is one from Shriya. I think she has to go 1-to-1 because she says we have our own child, but we are planning to go and adopt for another. So she wants to know what will be the challenges be. So Vanita ma'am, she needs to speak to you, maybe 1-to-1.
Yeah, we can share. She can talk.
Maybe
Yeah.
So
Ratna, I'd like to comment on the mobile phone thing.
Yes, Nicole.
That's right. Yeah. So I just wanted to share our own experience with my children who are now almost 14.
Mm-hmm.
The pressure to have a mobile phone started when they were 11.
Yeah.
And it was horrible for about 2 or 3 months where we had gone on a vacation with some friends and their kids were also the same age as my girls. One of them used to have her mobile stuck in her pocket of her shorts.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we went for a walk and came back. This child had 350 WhatsApp messages on her phone. 11 years old. My children thought we were the worst parents. We were the most strict, the most terrible, and they were 11. And my husband and I stuck our ground and said, absolutely no way, we will talk when you're older. And that doesn't mean there's a guarantee that you will get it, but we will keep revisiting it and discussing it as each year goes by. Today, they are almost 14. I know they do miss a mobile phone, but we've shared so much with them that they also understand how much kitpit and nonsense they are actually protected from because they don't have the phone. They don't have to take sides, they don't have to respond, they don't have to have an opinion on just about anything and everything. They don't have to be part of peer pressure because they just don't have that phone in their pockets. And even though if today I ask them, would you like a phone? I'm sure they'll say yes. But somewhere without admitting, I feel confident that they also know what they are protected from because they don't have a smartphone. We have given them a dabba, that old fashioned Nokia Samsung phone, for when they have to go out alone. They don't even call it a phone. They refer to it as the communication device. And they are very embarrassed about it. But believe you me, it's about taking a stand as a parent and drawing that line. And children can also manipulate. They want you to be popular, and you also want to be popular with them. But we have to be very clear and draw that
Thank
line.
you so much.
And I have no regrets as a parent.
Ratna, I want to add something over here on the issue of this mobile.
Quickly, Shashank.
Yeah. But nothing. Nicole,
Please start.
you have expressed your views very clearly, and I agree to it. But what about those parents जो बच्चों के साथ बात भी नहीं करते, और most of those parents they say, आज अगर वो मोबाइल नहीं होता तो मेरा बेटा खाना ही नहीं खाएगा, या मेरे बच्चे दूध नहीं पीते. वो मोबाइल पर बने वो जो कम्युनिकेशन चैनल पेरेंट्स टू चिल्ड्रन होना चाहिए, आज हम पेरेंट्स ने वो चैनल को शिफ्ट कर दिया मोबाइल टू चिल्ड्रन. So we have substituted ourselves there, and बचपन से ही बच्चों को वो आदत हो गई है. They have become addicted to it.
Yeah, Ratna ji, I would like to add on this.
जी मैम.
I second Shashank sir's point. When I am dealing with the small children, I have seen मेरे पास जितने parents आते हैं, उनका ये कहना होता है कि बिना मोबाइल देखे मैम ये खाना ही नहीं खाता है. Right, but the thing is, even if the child is 1 year old, the thing is, we are the one who are culprit into this case. We are the one जिन्होंने उसको ये habit डाली है. Now, during the lockdown, like my 2 daughters, one is 12 plus, another one is going to be 9 soon. दोनों को हमने कोई मोबाइल नहीं दिया था. But still, because of these online classes, we were forced to give them the mobile from 9 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon. For 4 to 5 hours, they were completely on mobile. And after then, again, they were on TV. The screen time has increased. The school has, there were parents, मेरा school अभी फिलहाल close चल रहा है. There were parents who were after my life. Ma'am, आप क्यों नहीं online classes लेते हो? आप क्यों नहीं online classes लेते हो? My point was, I was not ready to give that much of screen time to the children. And that was the reason मेरा preschool है, मैंने नहीं लिया था online classes. But again, the point is, बच्चे जो मोबाइल पर हैं, उसके लिए सबसे ज्यादा हम लोग responsible हैं as a parent. We should tell them what is right and what is wrong. We are the one who should tell them the consequence. We are the one who should tell them that when they can use the mobile phone, when they cannot use the mobile phone. I agree with Nicole ji कि जो नोकिया का जो सबसे छोटे वाला फोन आता है जिसमें कोई स्मार्टफोन नहीं है, कुछ नहीं है, this is something which I have given to my daughter even when she is traveling, so that she'll be, because internet is something which is corrupting the mind of the child, and we should, और हमको उस पे ना एक चेक रखना एज अ पेरेंट बहुत जरूरी हो जाता है. और जी,
लेकिन समय के अभाव के कारण मैं इसको यहाँ पे कहना चाहूंगी कि जो विक्रम जी ने इशू उठाया है वो लार्जर है देन बीइंग our own families, our own children. क्योंकि policy जो digitization, pick this up Vikram ji, and his questions are still on the chats and we can respond to him individually as well. So being a parent, of course, is the most difficult task, as Pratima ma'am said and Shweta ma'am agreed, and we all as parents do agree. So I would like to conclude that yes, we agree that we need to talk to our children all the time. We need to preserve their childhood. We need to be giving them space. Everything, yes, as a parent we are doing, but there are lots of other children who have been missing on these things. So I would like to thank each one of you, because I would have carried this discussion more forward, because there are so many complex issues that have come up. So we can't answer all of them in one webinar. So maybe we will continue in our second webinar, and we'll pick up lots of questions that have come up and others that have come up from our own discussions. So there are complexity in parenting, which we may go for the next one. And though we have tried to pick up on the challenges, but how to resolve them is still a long way to go. Though we are shared our own experiences, we have given a lots of insight into it, that yes, these are the ways we can resolve certain issues. So I would like to thank, because the Zoom might cut it off. So before that, thank you everyone on the panel, and thank you everyone who is a participant here. And it was great having you all guys here. Thank you so much. Maybe the next time we can have a larger meeting with larger resource persons, and lots of other queries and our own confrontations, our own complexities we can give up. So before we close, a big thank you to everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ratna. Thank you, panelists and the participants. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. We'd like to close now. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, ma'am. Can I close it?
Yeah, great. Thank you, Ratna.
Thank you, ma'am.